Hello, welcome.
Hey everybody.
Stage 2 guide stage translation. That's where we're at today. We are going to take an entirely different approach than you may have experienced. Trust the system enough to give it a try and you will experience a new level of results.
In stage 2, you will create a complete guidebook to be used throughout the upcoming hero stage. Up till now, the ideas in this book have been presented to you in a foreign language, meaning in a language that is not the way you would explain things in your own words. Leaving the ideas in a foreign language is not going to be good enough when you move to the hero stage. The hero needs the concepts to be presented in the hero's own language. No matter how foreign or new the ideas are, your task is to find a way to translate them into the hero's language. How would they make the most sense to the hero? And you know who the hero is, it's you.
To experience change, the hero must internalize this idea. To do this, they must be able to understand, remember, and apply each concept. The process of translating each concept in its entirety makes all of this not only possible, but even more likely to happen than not.
I like that. That's cool.
Yes.
Memory is highly dependent on forming associations between the new and whatever we already have in our memory banks. New words are a challenge until we form connections to something we already have in our heads. Once we have a connection, we have something we can hold on to for remembering the new word. For example, the word for good in Thai is di. A simple story or association makes that memorable. Something like goody goody, which sounds like the English for good and the Thai for for good together. Or in America, a D on a test is bad, but in Thailand, D is good.
The story helps us remember, as does the process of figuring out what connection we can make. Forming the translation will make it memorable. New ideas are even more of a challenge to remember because they are new patterns of thought. In order to improve the speed and success of the hero, you will be taking new patterns of thinking and finding associations to connect them to things the hero is already familiar with in the hero's own language.
Another reason for translating the concepts is so that you see them more clearly to begin with. I love this part. This is really good. It's okay if I tell her she did a good job. A person who draws the face of a friend without looking at a picture for reference ends up drawing an overly simplistic set of lines that barely resemble the original. A skilled artist spends equal or more time looking at the original than they do at their drawing, because in order to represent it on paper, you must first truly see what it is.
In the translation stage, take the time to consider the ideas as presented. Compared to how you are translating them in your guidebook, is everything there? Oh, compared. Yeah, compared. Is everything there? Is it all there in your own words? Is there any element that's not quite there that you could find a way to convey? Are there any ideas that are still in a foreign language that have just been copied down verbatim? Will the hero easily understand the language and patterns of thinking as described in the guidebook? What will this look like? That's it.
That's it. Oh,
a little bit more.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Using the guide concepts as your original reference, you will create a comprehensive guidebook in the hero's language. Remember, if you want different results, try doing things differently. Here is the perfect opportunity to do just that. Give it a go and let's see what happens.
Okay, so let's talk about, putting it in your own words. So those questions, is it all there in your own words, and is there any element that's not quite there that you could find a way to convey? And then if it's still in the foreign language, you won't be able to retrieve it as easily. So translate it into your language and your own ways of thinking. And if there's a concept or an idea that you know of that's similar, but maybe you're like, oh, it's similar, but it's a little different, then if you think about it and maybe write it down and come up with how it's similar and different, that's a really good way to make it stick in the brain. And we'll actually provide some of those for you. Whenever I talk, I'm talking from this hero's perspective. And even this hero's perspective isn't going to make it stick in your hero's perspective. So you need to translate whatever I even say to make it make sense to you.
And we were talking to a team member the other day, and she she's like, oh, but I like the way it makes sense how it's said already in the book. I like it. I want to just keep it just how that is. And she's very familiar with every concept, everything in the book. And she told us it wasn't until she actually started translating it that she saw big breakthroughs for herself. Even though she's had a lot, she's had a great experience with all of the concepts, great experience. And then she was thinking about the actual translation stage and how it would best work for you. So she decided to test it herself, and because this is a new stage that it was always a part of Stacy's book before, but it wasn't made so clear and detailed as it is in this version.
Yes.
But when she did the translation stage, she had breakthroughs.
Like boom, 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 like all in a row.
Yes, she didn't realize that just because she understood it in Stacy's language didn't mean that she had internalized it, and that's the difference.
Yeah, it's a really big difference. So even if it seems monotonous or verbatim, you're like, okay, but I understand this. This makes sense to me. I'll just put it in that same language. I'll use that. That's a really good idea. Let's just use that in mind, and I'll just explain what Stacy meant. But really, as much as you can, even if you feel like what you're trying to write is incomplete, just do as much as you can, and then you'll come back and add to it.
Yeah, and it's like without translating it, the only things that are going to stick are the impressions. So what you wrote down yesterday about the impressions, this is what I got out of it. Do you want it to stop there, or do you want to go to the next level? And if you want it to go to the next level, you want to translate it to your own language.
Yes, and we're going to go through, so all the concepts you've already heard in the overview, we're going to go through again, but we're going to go through them in very just bite-sized chunks and ask a few questions to help you kind of think how you would translate it. And so even though it's maybe sounds new or different or daunting, it's going to be in small sections and just a daily dose.
Yeah, it says a comprehensive guidebook. We will
Over
get there
time.
over time. Day to day, it's just going to be these little chunks, a little bit, just like we've been doing. The only difference is instead of sitting back, preview, overview, now you're actually going to start internalizing. So that's the difference.
Yep. Okay.
All right, cool. All
Take
right.
care. Bye.
See you tomorrow.